So, is this the coolest Glock setup ever? If you're talking about CAA RONIs or MCKs, I definitely think it is. There are quite a few review videos and articles about these CAA chassis, but you won't find another one quite like this. So, what is this and why did I choose this setup? Well, long story short, years ago I bought a Glock 19. I was more into 40 caliber handguns at the time, so I hardly ever shot it. The guy that I bought it from was murdered a few years later, and I decided to set the 19 up instead of just letting it sit in the safe all the time. Originally, I was just going to put some night sights on it and throw on a light. But one day I got this email talking about these MCKs, these micro conversion kits. Honestly, I thought they were butt ugly at first, and I really didn't like them. But then for some reason, I guess probably because I'd never really seen anything like the MCKs, I decided to do a little more research on them. And I thought, you know what? Every Glock I have, I always install night sights and a light. That's what a lot of people do, and that's fine, obviously, but it's just kind of boring. I thought it would be cool to take one of these weird MCK things and make something a bit more unique. Something that might even be better than just a standalone Glock. I learned that the company that makes these is called CAA, and while I was looking into them, I found out there are now two different CAA companies, basically. There's the original CAA, based in Israel, and there's the new US CAA. The US CAA makes the MCK, or Micro Conversion Kit, and the original CAA makes the Micro RONI, which is what this is. Honestly, I don't like the newer MCKs. I just don't like the look of them, especially in the front. They look like some kind of bloated water gun or something. I just don't like their bulky design. This is the CAA Micro RONI Gen 4X version, and as you can see, it's much cooler than the MCK. That's just my opinion, of course. I'm just messing around a bit, but seriously, the front of the RONI is way less bulky and much more ergonomic and comfortable to handle. This one has the angled grip installed, but I could swap that out with the magazine holder, but I don't like it. The angled grip is perfect. It fits perfectly into my hand, and it's much quicker to just grab a spare mag off of your belt rather than ripping a magazine out of the front of the chassis, at least for me. The Micro RONI is awesome. It definitely helps you shoot a handgun much faster. Everything is improved. I mean, obviously, because you're basically taking your handgun and turning it into a pistol caliber carbine. Up top, I have a Holosun HE507C green dot on a ScalarWorks mount, and it makes sighting a target much faster and easier than using the sights on the Glock. There are a lot of cool features with this particular RONI, but the coolest by far is... Do you notice anything weird about this setup? Anything a little different? Yes, that's right, this RONI is suppressed. Now, you can't just pop a suppressor onto the Glock when it's installed in this RONI. There are some things you have to do to make it work properly. Now, the newer MCKs, the Gen 2 versions, you can install a suppressor right out of the box using those models. But again, I just don't like them. The front is just so bulky and just blah. And now it's even worse because they had to design it with this huge hole in the front so a suppressor could be installed. This setup works flawlessly and it is just awesome. It's super quiet, super compact, and super fun to shoot. A lot of people have installed suppressors while using MCKs or RONIs. But, and I'm not trying to bash anyone at all, if you want to set something up however you want to do it, go for it. It's your gun, your gear, it's all up to you. Now, having said that, a lot of the MCK/RONI setups I've seen are just not that great, in my opinion. Because a suppressor won't normally work in one of these, some people have used super long barrels to get the needed clearance so they could install a suppressor. And again, that was their choice, but I just think it looks pretty goofy, to be honest. But even more importantly than the looks, remember this is a Glock, and obviously they make those super long barrels for a reason, or at least some companies do. I don't think Glock makes 18-inch barrels or 24-inch barrels or however long that one is. Maybe they do, I don't know. But I can't imagine that there wouldn't be some kind of issue installing that barrel in a Glock and hanging a suppressor off the end. I mean, maybe there are no issues. I just don't think the Glock or any handgun is designed for that. And another thing is, it really defeats one of the main purposes of these, which is having a nice compact setup. There are other things people have done to install a suppressor on these, where they usually cut all into the front and do all of this stuff to make a suppressor work. But every time, there's always some weird thing they're doing. The bottom line is, I just didn't like any of those other setups that I saw. So that's why I created this setup. It's sleek, It works. I've never had one single issue firing this gun in this setup with any type of ammo I've used, which is around a dozen or so different kinds. This setup is lightweight and super comfortable to shoot. And look how compact this thing is. And it takes literally 1 second to remove the suppressor to make it even more compact. I mean, look at that. That is just ridiculous. Then you just pop the suppressor back on in like a second and you're good to go. This complete setup, even with a factory new Glock 19 and the suppressor and everything, is still less expensive than a lot of the top 9mm PCCs or PDWs or whatever you want to call them that are out on the market. And I would put this up against any of those options any day of the week without question. So this is a great setup, and if I was ever in a situation where I needed a firearm, like a home defense situation or anything like that, this would be a great setup to have. I wouldn't have any issue if this was the only gun I could grab if a bad situation went down. So if you're tired of the same old boring thing and you want something much cooler and different, or maybe you have a Glock or you're thinking about buying a Glock, but you want to make it the best Glock it can be, or at least you want to do more than just throw some night sights and a light on it, then this is the setup for you. Now, I made this review for fun. It's not supposed to be this big serious thing. This is just an interesting setup that I thought others might enjoy seeing. Even the shooting. I mean, I shoot for fun, but I also like to obviously know whatever weapon I'm using so I'm somewhat proficient with it. Anyway, like I said, this is a really cool setup. I mean, honestly, it is. And this is by far the best Glock setup I have. But there's a lot more to go over with this particular setup, especially if you might be interested in one of these yourself and setting it up like this one. So check out the link below. There you will find a complete review and complete overview of this setup. I have an entire video series where all of the features of this RONI are explained in detail, so use the link below and check it out.